This is Twit.
So Apple isn't, I don't know, according to Japanese newspaper reports, which is always a great source
I find
for this kind of information, Apple is definitely going to release a 2 screen sizes in September of the iPhone 6. Now, I always use Rene Ritchie as the rumor validator or invalidator, because imore.com, you guys really get all the scoops. What is the status of this idea?
I have only heard about one large screen iPhone this year. I have no doubt that Apple is working on a variety, or at least testing a variety of sizes, because they really want, they test everything. Anytime you hear someone say, why didn't Apple do this? The most common answer is they spent a year with that in the lab and didn't like it for XYZ reason. So I have no doubt that they are testing a wide variety of sizes, might even be prototyping a wide variety of sizes, but I've still only heard of one regular size and one large size.
Ming-Chi Kuo, who has been very consistent as a source, he's an analyst for KGI Securities, says Apple will not go bigger than 5 inches because of their, quote, unwavering, end quote, dedication to the idea of having it be a one-handed phone.
They're also a very good step-by-step company. If you look, they had the same screen size for a while. Then they went Retina. Then they went 16 by 9. Then, you know, if they go bigger now, they're probably not going to just go bigger, bigger, bigger all in 1 year. They might introduce a larger size iPhone with a much higher resolution, which will then enable them to do a variety of larger screen devices years down the road. But I don't think they'll do all of it in 1 year.
Yeah, you also have to remember that Samsung can get away with doing like a humongous sized Note phone because they're one. They basically make every phone there is, and they're one maker of Android phones among many. If Apple decides to make a humongous 6-inch phone, that is going to be 50% of all the iPhone models available worldwide for an entire year. So I don't think they'd do something quite that. I don't want to say ridiculous because I've used larger phones. They're kind of nice, but I don't think they do something that wouldn't appeal to just about everybody. And they are just as concerned about smaller hands, smaller female hands as big male hands like this one.
I actually kind of buy that because, you know, I've been using the Moto X, which ergonomically, as far as I'm concerned, is perfect sized. And you and I both have been playing with this HTC One. It's taller, it's bigger, it's also heavier, and it doesn't. It's you know, I can hold it. Obviously, I'm not.
It's not as convenient.
It's not. It doesn't quite feel as good in the hand.
No, it's. Yeah.
So there is something to be said for that. I mean, you know, and I use a Note 3, which is too big for their face, let alone your hand. But
head sized.
There is. I can tell the difference.
I think fundamentally, I mean, one of the things I've been really thinking about with Apple is that I think that part of what when they're developing stuff, I always feel like they're not developing technology because it's important. I think they're developing technology because they don't think it's not important. It shouldn't be the middle of your life. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Oh, cool. This is really. It's like, how do I get this other stuff out of? You know, how do I have it be easy and I don't have to think about it and I have to. It's all in one hand. And I think that there's a fundamental approach to it of it should be technology should in the background, not in the foreground of what you're doing. And of course, you put it in the foreground.
There's a couple interesting things too. One is that the physical size of the iPhone will eventually limit. I mean, the 640 by 1136 will eventually limit the quality of software that can be made for it. And there's people in the third world who can only afford one device, and people in North America or Europe who only want to carry one device. So there is value in a primary computing platform that is a bigger phone. But one of my favorite moments at Macworld was the keynote when Ben Baharin was there, and someone asked, you know, all these big phones are all, you know, selling so well. And he said, no, they really aren't. In Asian countries, they're selling really well. In North America, and I think as journalists, we kind of feel this instinctively, but it's nice to have someone put real numbers to it. They're selling dismally well. They're not doing well at all. The iPhone still, I don't know if the same will be true this year, but up until last year, it was outselling not just a big phone, but all big phones.
Even the Galaxy S4, which is a big-ish phone.
Yeah, it was outsell. People were choosing iOS on a smaller screen over something else on a bigger screen. It's the same thing when people chose an iPhone on AT&T over something else on Verizon. Apple can grow their addressable market by offering 2 screen sizes like they do with every other device they make. But there's no market pressure in North America. People in North America are still happy with relatively small phones, and things like the Note do really well in Asia, but don't do really well here yet. So Apple doesn't want to be ahead of that curve. They're not ahead of the curve company. They are a late adopter company.
I don't know if there's an equivalency though. You have to also, again, factor in that if you want to buy an iPhone, there's only one company that makes it. If you want to buy a phone that runs iOS, you have to buy an iPhone brand phone. I haven't looked at the distribution of the numbers, but does that factor in all availability of all Android handsets everywhere?
I think that's absolutely valid. And that's why I drew the AT&T and Verizon analogy, is that there will be people for whom they can't or they don't want a small phone, and Apple isn't serving their needs right now. So the bigger phone option will let them be more inclusive of that. And then when people choose, we'll see what the real numbers are, like how many people actually went to Verizon when the iPhone was available on more carriers. So I think that's absolutely valid.
It is. And it is very significant that if you name like the 1, 2, 3 most influential and popular Android phones, Sony Xperia, the Samsung, and the HTC One, all three of those companies, their flagship version is a 4.8-inch or 5-inch phone, but they also make a mini version of it that's more the size of an iPhone.
iPhone is 4 inches. The rumors are the 6 will be 4.7 inches or 5.5 inches. I think you can eliminate 5.5 inches. That's too big.
Yeah.
That's gigantic.
Yeah.
I think that's, but 4.7 is, I think that's the size of the Moto X. That's not outrageously big. Are there issues also with resolution? Not merely that they don't have enough resolution, but also that you have too many resolutions? Does that make a problem?
I think it might depend on the pixel density as well, because you could definitely get things that might match some of the other.
Retina, though.
Oh, you'll definitely have at least Retina, but I think that what your question is are you trying to match, what resolution of possibly the iPads that you're trying to match and so on and so forth, or to get something that's.
So you could go down from the iPad.
You could have something that's slightly bigger that's denser, even denser than the iPad, and still have it be the roughly the same. The problem is that the aspect ratio is, of course, different. So that's one of the challenges.
If they wanted to, they could take an iPhone as it is right now, move it to 5 inches, and it would have the exact same pixel density as the iPad Air. So that would keep them. Okay. The iPad Mini and the iPhone right now have the same pixel density. The iPad Air is lower. It's 246 instead of 326.
Same pixel density, but not the same resolution.
No, they have more pixels, but when you're cutting screens, it's just nice to be able to cut screen. It's efficient to be able to cut screens from the same density.
The icons will be the same aspect ratio, and
well, they'll just be bigger. But the problem is that that's below 300 pixels, and you hold phones closer. My hope also, that still isn't more pixels, and I really want more pixels at this point. And if they went to something like 1080p, it would go up to 400 DPI or something like that. But it would give them a lot more future proofing if they ever did want to play with the size more. And yes, that does cause pain to developers, but Apple did that to them with Retina, did that to them with 16:9, and I don't think they would be afraid to do that again.